Good hello, welcome back to Animation Adventures inside of DaVinci, the marvelous open to use compositor editing software. Trying to figure out how the heck a brand new node system works. That's pretty fun. This time I want to figure out how masking works. At the moment I've got two pieces of media set up in here. You can see by their little dots, the one on the right is this live action footage, this one on the left is some tutorial footage. The media out is what will be rendered at the end. And what I want to do is basically just cut a hole in the middle so that this footage can be seen through. That seems simple enough, and from what I know so far is these blue arrows correspond to masking. I teased in the last one of these the idea of null objects and what they are and how they could work, akin to After Effects logic. And that there are these four options here. I think I'll use an elliptical one. And what I'm hoping will happen is that if I plug this one into here, it will cut a hole out of the footage on the left. Okay, sort of done that. It's done the opposite. There is an invert switch, that's good. So now it should be something as simple as putting it into the first media, because I wanted to cut a hole in this, and then would it go into a chain? No, of course not. This is where the merge would come in. Okay, that's the first stage of the experiment done pretty easily. These blue arrows are just, they are the beginning of something. You can't put effects before them, but you can put masking before them, which is why they don't have yellow and green arrows. In the same way that Toon Boom has effects and things, they have blue at the bottom, but like when you get to the drawing layer, you can't put any effects above it. It only has green. So at that point, you're only limited to transformation type nodes, pegs and quad maps and things. It's been confusing me because, of course, here, masking is an effect. It takes place after an image. So here, positional transitions, movement, scale, rotation, I guess because it isn't an animation program at core, you may not actually be programming movement. It doesn't need to be at the very beginning of the hierarchy. Effects still happen after the footage, but masking is the big thing that happens beforehand. I guess because this is all about merging different types of footage together in all sorts of clever ways. So what I'm wondering, and what I'm worried about, is in my experiments before I recorded this, what I wanted to do would consistently crash the program. So whether or not it's just not up to the task, or the program isn't meant to handle many masks stacked on top of each other, which doesn't seem right, but that was the result I was getting. But to now take this footage with the hole in it and also manually paint in more carves around that circle. So the way I'd see that taking place would be to simply get a masked paint and plug that in before it. I'm going to save though, because I think this is where it would crash last time. Okay, it has connected. Paintbrush selected. Brush controls made big and harsh. And okay, so that's painting back in on top of it now. So that's good. That's what I wanted. If I were to invert that, that's interesting. This isn't what I wanted, because it's still only affecting the area inside that circle. I want it to be that circle plus this, which I would have thought this combination of chain would do. So why does it not? So I guess it has sort of added them together, but just not in the way that I would expect. See, doing this stroke through here, it's only going to mask it out if it's common ground. If it's a mask here and here, I guess that makes sense, but it's still not operating the way that I would expect. And now it's starting to be like, how am I supposed to expect it to go? I'm really confusing myself here. Maybe it's just the combination of which one's inverted or which one becomes before the other. Let's try some combinations. Remembering the desired effect is for this entire circle to be masked out, plus a streak going all the way across also to be cut out. Well, I've managed to get the exact opposite going by inverting both of them. It results in this. But that doesn't really make sense either. It's not a complete inverse of them both, is it? Let's try flipping their order. Okay. Flipping their order does get it. Aha. This was the crash I was getting last time. I was worried about that. Having the ellipse before the paint, it doesn't like that. For some reason. And if I'm right, that is a repeatable, actionable thing. If I try and plug this in again, it will crash. Immediately. Immediately. Why? What is forbidden about that order? Okay, well, I guess I'll scratch that experiment for the time being and talk about something else that's sort of been on my mind here, and that is the difference between paint and mask paint. I found this to be very confusing because early on I was just attempting to use these regular paint strokes as a mask, but I couldn't. I don't know why for now. Now that I'm painting that, the mask has just sort of vanished for some reason. But again, I know it sounds petty to just because I'm used to it. That you can have literally any image become a matte. Just anything can become anything, really. In fact, you can have a mask, any drawing, mask out from itself. And that's necessary sometimes to make certain kinds of effects. So I'm fascinated that in here, painting strokes and painting masks are two independent tools that work fundamentally differently. And you cannot plug just anything into being a matte of some kind. So I guess to answer some of these concerns, what I want to try real quick, maybe not so much just with an image, but rather resize this footage. So that's interesting. I wasn't expecting that. What I wanted to do was resize this footage and then use that as a mask on this one. So it would sort of slice a rectangular thing out of it, but for some reason simply having them merged together on one plane has adjusted the size of both of them. What if it came past after the matte? What happens then? Stretches it even further. Okay, well, I'm coming out of this video with more questions than I had going into it. So that leads me into saying that I need a little bit of help, I think, here. Is there anyone else watching who has downloaded DaVinci and is also just sort of mucking around with it in the same way that I am? I think we would stand a tremendous advantage to sort of make this more of a community or group experience. A learn with me, if you will. So there will be more DaVinci experiments and adventures as I discover them, but also I'd love to reflect on the sort of adventures that you have as well. So please do comment the sorts of maybe problems that you've been having, the solutions that you found, things that you think I should just tinker with and tamper with, and I'll definitely take all of those into consideration in future experiments. If you'd be like, hey, try this thing, and I'll be like, okay, so-and-so told me to try this thing. I think that'll be a lot of fun, and all of us will be able to learn these new experiences much more quickerly.